Okay, looks like I am live. Hopefully this is good. It's been a while since I've done a video, and this is my first time doing a YouTube live, so bear with me as I shake off some of the nerves. I'm sure I will get into flow state as I go along here. So with this video, I wanted to dedicate this as a Christmas gift to Elon Musk. Okay, and you might be wondering, Tina, you don't even know Elon, but I happened to watch a couple of his things on X, and I read an article that I'm going to talk about why um, it inspired me to create this video. Okay, so Elon, if you're listening to this, if on the off chance someone on your team or you actually watch this, you're either going to love it and you're able to use some of these ideas, you're going to hate it and I'll be a poster child of what not to do, or you might find something in between and you might be able to modify this and use this in a way that can help. So we're going to talk about the context of charities and nonprofit organizations. And so I had watched one of your videos, and I know you've mentioned this a few times about the appearance of good versus actually doing good, so, and how important that is to you in terms of whether or not to donate or give money to a certain charity. And it reminded me, this is going to date me, but I'm just a few months older than you. But it made me think of the movie, I think it's Trading Places, where the guy had to give away a certain amount of money every day, and it just got to be exhausting. So I thought that it reminded me of that, of like, okay, you know what, there's probably some challenges to what that was. But just watching that video just kind of like made me think about it. And then the next day, I had an article pop up in my news feed about some criticisms about Musk Foundation. So I had read it, and it made me, it just, when I seen some of the challenges or criticisms that were coming, I viewed those as problems to be solved. And that kind of caused this explosion of ideas that came up in my head. It's kind of like, imagine having a big bowl of Skittles and you trip and all of those Skittles go flying, and now you got to kind of gather them all in and organize them according to colors. So that's at least what I would do. Anyway, so it was like having a bunch of browser tabs all of a sudden pop open, and I had all of these ideas of how I could possibly help, and it just kind of went down a rabbit hole that way. And as I was kind of thinking about each one of the ideas, I was like, oh, okay, it had this idea, and then there's all these like little tendrils that kind of go off of them. It's like I literally felt my brain overheat, and I felt like Cartman off of South Park, where it's like, you warped my fragile little mind. So as I was going through that, I realized, okay, Tina, this is the stuff that you actually help people with and you help coach them on. And it's part of the change management practice. So I switched over and I put on my change management hat and my coach hat to like, how would I help solve some of these problems? And I started by researching a charity that I donate to, and I started to look at, what would be some of the criteria like that would determine whether or not this is a good charity. If I was, say, running Musk Foundation, and I was like, oh, okay, trying to decide what kind of charities would be good, what criteria would we look for. Of course, we would track financials and making sure that, what's the percentage of the money, like for every dollar that's given, how much goes to the actual people in need, how much goes to overhead and infrastructure, and how effective is the solution at solving whatever problem that the organization is trying to solve. And also, is it in alignment with some of Musk Foundation criteria of where you like to direct the funds that you have? So I was going through that, and I had quite a few ideas, and I kept I'm like, what's missing? Because of course, as I looked at the charity that I donate to, their financials are looking good. They've got the usual stuff. They've got the business structure. They've got all of that. And then it just kind of dawned on me. I'm like, what's missing? What would make a charity stand out compared to all the charities that you could possibly donate to? What would make a charity stand out? And what would be missing, that you would feel uncomfortable, that you wouldn't want to donate to that particular charity? And then an idea kind of came to mind, and this is one of the ideas that I wanted to share with you, and for any nonprofits that are watching, that they can maybe take this and adopt this idea to their particular organization. So I call this the self-elimination plan. Basically, from my perspective, if a charity is actually doing good, then it would actually have to solve the problem. So if you follow a traditional business model, wants to set up like a codependent relationship. So you always need that business, right? So it's like a brand loyalty, right? You want brand loyalty for a business. But if you are truly doing good for a charity organization, then you should have some sort of exit strategy, some sort of self-elimination plan. So almost like a suicidal kind of way of looking at the program. And so I would think of doing it as I would look for potentially up to 50% of the funds are being directed for immediate concerns. So let's say, I'm just going to use, say, a women's shelter. Those would be for the emergency funds to running and supporting the women that are in emergency need. But I would also be looking for 50% to go to prevention activities, and taking like a root cause corrective action kind of model to it. It's like I would be looking for a company or a charity that would have some sort of plan, whether it's a 10, 20, 30-year plan, to actually eliminate the problem so that the charity is no longer needed in that capacity. Okay. And wait, I will get to what you can do with that afterwards. But I would also be looking for them to be doing some sort of change management and agile kind of methodologies in their approach to how they're actually solving the problem. Okay. The second thing that I would be looking for is the charity set up in a way that it can be self-sustaining? So if we were giving an initial donation fund, to get them started, to get them going with the charity or whatever problem that they are trying to solve that would help the benefit of humanity, what would they have in place to self-sustain? So it's like a rechargeable battery, like having that same kind of thought process and methodology to how they're solving those problems within the charity. So example again with, say, a women's shelter. So the women that they come through and help, are they doing a good enough job that the people that are helping would want to give back in some sort of way, shape, or form in capacity, whether that's through time, resources from themselves, or just any way that they could possibly help. So it would be like a pay it forward kind of thought process, right? So that would help sustain the charity so that it can continue. So maybe, dealing with this in one particular area, they're able to solve the problem in that particular city or town. Maybe they're expanding to a new city or a new town to solve the same problem. Okay. With the ultimate goal, the long-term goal being, how can we eliminate this problem from existing in the first place? What do we need to do? What kinds of things do we need to put in place to make sure that we don't even actually need this charity going forward? Okay. I would also be looking for systems and processes to show that they have self-sustaining ways to maintain the support and the generating extra funds outside of Musk Foundation. Okay. The third thing, and I think this would be good. So as part of the exit strategy, you have all of the talent of the people that were running the organization, and making sure that the talent of that charity is still retained so that they can continue on to possibly a new problem that's going to be solved, but with the same set of people. They already have the same principles, the same skill sets, the same proven talent, and it would increase trust and likelihood of and ease to be able to know that, oh, okay, we've worked with these people before, we know they're good, we know they're efficient, and we would be able to feel secure that they're providing the right metrics and helping us solve some of these challenges, that they're going to be a good steward of the money that we're sending to them. And I think this would allow for a faster deployment process. So retaining of the talent. So even with the exit strategy of the charity of either shutting it down or possibly branching out to, okay, we've now solved this one problem, now we're moving on to solving this problem. So I would be looking for that. As for some of the other things that I was looking at, of course, your website is very lean. It's a little bit of a black box, the Musk Foundation website. So, of course, I had a bazillion ideas come up around sales and marketing and what we could do there. But one question that really stuck out in my head was you had mentioned that you really don't want your name on the foundation. And that was very curious to me. I would want to know and understand what is the thought process behind that. Is there certain reasons, personal, professional, legal, that you don't want that? And because it would change two different paths of how I would solve those. So I would basically need to understand that. Of course, I would also need to understand your current criteria of how you select particular foundations or charities to donate to. How do you vet them? What is the application process for the charity to apply to receive money from Musk Foundation? How do you deploy those resources and the process with that? I also noticed that I think it's 3 volunteer staff that you have working for the foundation. So that could be where I would probably be a bit problematic, because I'm not quite sure how I would be able to do this without increasing. So, and I know you're not very fond of that. So this is why I'm just giving you this as a gift. You can take what you like, leave the rest. And I would also want to know what kind of measurements do you have before the charity applies, the during, what kind of criteria are you looking for, how to educate charities on what it is that they need to do so that it would streamline the application process, that they're aware ahead of time that of what criteria we'd be looking for to be able to invest those funds in those charities. And then aftercare of like, what would we be looking for after we've donated the funds? What kind of things would upset us? I know there's a few things on some organizations that were supposed to be nonprofit and turned out to be otherwise, that are very upsetting. So I would want to definitely avoid that. I would also want to look at what kinds of things that if a charity has been denied, that you're not going to forward funds. Is there any opportunity? Is there any guidance of what it is that you would need to see from them in order for them to be successful at receiving the funds, so that you felt comfortable that the company, the charity that you're donating to and allocating the funds to, that they are using it in an appropriate way, that you can feel good about. So those are just my 2 cents. And I wanted to send this out. Some of the why I delayed sending this is, of course, imposter syndrome. So some corporate trauma of when I started to do research and I saw most charities are set up in a very typical corporate kind of structure. And I was just like, it's already been there, done that. And that's where I came up with the self-eliminating plan, is a criteria that I would be looking for, because that is not something that is done in a business model. And if it's done in a charity, that means you're expecting the charity to be around forever. And that doesn't actually solve the problem long term. So that was one thing that I thought would be particularly valuable. And so with that, I hope this was helpful to whoever's watching it. And Merry Christmas, Elon, to you and your family. Take care.